Hi, my name is Ariella Tal, and this is Lux Med School Prep. I'm a senior biology major, and in the fall, I will begin my Master's of Public Health at UNC Chapel Hill with a concentration in maternal and child health, and I'm extremely passionate about gender health equity. In the past, I conducted research on advancing pre-medical curriculum in order to improve female health outcomes. And in this research, I found that our healthcare system is based on a male model that assumes that women are just smaller men with different reproductive organs, but that everything else functions the same. But this isn't the case. In fact, women are impacted by diseases differently, disproportionately, and exclusively. But despite this fact, pre-medical curriculum fails to address sex and gender differences. Pre-medical curriculum focuses on preparing students for the MCAT exam. So this includes taking classes like physics, anatomy, chemistry, but overall the curriculum undervalues sex and gender. And I even experienced this in my own anatomy classes. When we learned about symptoms of a heart attack, for example, I later found out that what we were taught as general symptoms were actually the male-specific signs, and the female signs are completely different. And this has long-term impacts. I found in a national survey that only a third of medical students report feeling prepared to address sex and gender differences in a healthcare setting, which is really unfortunate considering the fact that half the population is female, and it's crucial that physicians feel comfortable and confident addressing these differences. And that's where Lux comes in. Lux is a pre-medical preparation app containing comprehensive study materials. Lux will allow students to practice cultural competency skills daily. Lux will include modules that contain flashcards, videos, practice exams, and other tools that allow students to learn in an accessible way. And this is based on a market that already exists with MCAT preparation tools. So this is Kaplan and Magoosh, which are two really popular MCAT preparation apps. And they contain the same features that Lux would, like videos, practice exams, flashcards, things of that nature. But what they don't contain is cultural competency education. And there is a market for this. Students are willing to invest in order to stand out on their med school application. So on average, students invest about $2,500 just to prepare for their MCAT exam. And students would be willing to invest in Lux because the American Association of Medical Colleges lists cultural competency here as number 4 on their list of core competencies for entering medical students. On their website, they give some examples of what this might look like. So this could look like coming from an underrepresented population, or maybe speaking multiple languages. But often these factors are out of a student's control. What's not out of a student's control is educating themselves. And that's exactly what Lux aims to do. Lux aims to disrupt the healthcare system through educating students on identities beyond their own in order to prevent adverse health outcomes. In the future, with the money from this competition, I would use it to invest it in an application development team. Then I would conduct beta testing with current medical students, and I would launch Lux based on their feedback. In the future, I would also like to create a certificate of completion program. This would allow students to complete their modules and post those certificates on their LinkedIns, on their resumes, and ultimately on their med school applications so they can stand out as students with a strong foundation in cultural competency skills. And in the future, I would also love to partner with current MCAT preparation courses, which would allow this information to reach a much wider audience from an already trusted source. And in speaking of the future, I wanted to give a visual representation of how Lux would look. So you can see Lux uses similar features that the current MCAT preparation apps use. And this is because I want students to open Lux and already feel comfortable and familiar navigating the application. The education gap that Lux aims to bridge will arm students with information they will take with them throughout the rest of their careers, ultimately creating a generation of culturally competent practitioners. And if you invest in Lux, what will you get in return? Well, McKinsey, in partnership with the World Economic Forum, released a report in January stating that the women's health market is a $1 trillion opportunity, and the report actually says this is a conservative estimate. And the Biden-Harris administration just announced a couple weeks ago that they're going to invest $100 million in accelerating women's health research. So investing in women's health is asking for money back in your pockets. Join Lux in creating a more equitable healthcare system. Thank you.
Loved the way you presented, and my attention was caught at the very starting.
Amazing.
In a way, you're saying we need different kind of syllabus that would concentrate on the diversity and understanding what the symptoms might look like for someone who's different from the larger group that has been studied.
Yes.
Would it require, I would assume it would require like authorities in the US to sign off on such a syllabus. Using Lux, if students are preparing versus going into actual exams, what they've learned here and what the actual exam answers would be? Would there be a gap, or how do you see it
So
bridging?
my plan right now is a lot of this information is already out there. So physicians are doing cultural competency training through hospitals, but this information isn't targeted at a younger audience. So that means they're going and completing med school without using this lens. So my hope is to kind of tailor it based off of the information that's already out there. There's a ton of free resources, the NIH, Society of Women's Health Research, they have all this information there. So my hope is that there wouldn't be a large disparity between what they would be learning in the future where the syllabus changes would be made versus what Lux would offer them, because all of that information is out there, it just hasn't caught up in pre-medical education.
I heard you talk about sex-based differences.
Yes.
I heard you use a broader term, cultural competencies.
Yes.
So maybe I missed it, and I'm sorry if I did, but are you also, there's significant race-based differences as well and otherwise. And so would this look to address these demographic differences
Yes.
more broadly?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I'm hoping to address both. So biologically, there is a difference between the sexes and how they're affected. Race is not a biological variable. That would be a cultural variable that's really important. So one of the modules that I gave an example of, but I didn't address in the presentation, is maternal mortality, for example. So that's something that is exclusive to women, but gets 3 times higher if you're a Black woman in this country. And so I think it's really important to integrate race as well.
Do you mind just helping me understand why we feel like it isn't being taught at a younger age, and like why we haven't solved for this already? Is it systematic reasons, or is it that they just know it's going to be trained later, or why are we in the position that we are in now?
Yeah, so there's so many reasons, but one example I can give you is our research is really far behind. So women actually weren't allowed into research until 1993, because in the 70s, the NIH released a law basically stating to protect and prevent pregnancy outcomes, adverse pregnancy outcomes. They took women of reproductive age out of phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials. And so that's resulted in a lot of research in that time on heart disease, on strokes, on so many things that just wasn't inclusive of women. So that's part of it, is catching up on research. Part of it is just an assumption that, that it's not really an issue. It's that stereotype that women are just smaller men with different reproductive organs, but that's it. And so a lot of it is just kind of playing catch up with the other issues that we've seen in the past.